Hello, welcome to the show. If you missed the last episode, I kind of suggest starting there. But otherwise, I'm going to pick back up where we left off, where I was out in Los Angeles. I had this boss, this friend, this publisher named Jamie, and we had couple little adventures out there, and this is sort of the continuing story of that. And I'm going to talk about my favorite band and my least favorite band, and just music in general. This one's going to be basically all about music. So I'm going to just switch over right now, pick up where the last episode left off. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy it. And just a quick disclaimer on this one before we get into it. When I reference drugs and alcohol in this episode, I want to be sort of like specific about what I mean. And, alcohol, I mean alcohol entirely. When I'm talking about drugs, I want to be clear that I'm not talking about opioids. I'm not talking about fucking heroin and fentanyl and that shit, okay? I've lost 3 friends to that shit. I almost lost another one over Christmas time. I fucking hate it. And what I'm talking about is I'm talking about weed. I'm talking about acid, fucking hallucinogens and shit like that. I'm even talking about, even though, like I've said before, I've never done it. I don't particularly like being around it, but I'm talking about cocaine. I can't deny that a lot of music that I love and great fucking music is born of cocaine. I won't deny that. So those are the things I'm talking about here, okay? I just want to be very clear on that so nobody gets it fucked up, all right? Otherwise, here we go. Enjoy. So one day I'm sitting down in Huntington Beach and my phone rings and it's Jamie. He says, I've got this new band. We just signed them and I need you to hear them because they wrote your theme song. So can you come up tonight and we'll go for a ride? I really want to play this for you. I say, yeah, sure. So that night I get in my car, I drive up to Sherman Oaks, I meet up with Jamie. We get in his car. And I'm like, okay, what of this band? What of this theme song? What's the fucking deal? And he says, all right, these guys are called Fiddlar. I'm like, what the fuck is Fiddlar? Is that the name of the town they're from or something? Like, what does that mean? He says, no, it's an acronym for like growing up when like somebody was about to do some really dumb shit, like like they're skateboarding or fucking, whatever else, and someone's about to do something really fucking stupid that might fuck them up really bad. And everybody says like, fuck it, dog, life's a risk. And, they'd tattoo it into their fucking legs and arms and all this shit. And they named their band after it. And I thought, wow. I already fucking love this band. Like, I'm not even sure you need to sell me on it, but what of this theme song that you're telling me about? And he said, all right. And he puts it in and he starts playing me the record, which basically is their first self-titled record with the black and white cover. All right. He just puts it on. He starts rolling it. First song, which was the one that he said was my theme song. And we're listening to it really, really fucking loud, like super loud. And my first thought was like, man, this is really, really fucking abrasive. This is really fucking like raw, super fucking raw. And it's got a fucking like recklessness to it that I was really, really fucking into. And then they got to the chorus, and that was when these young men put these words to music that I will never forget. The first time I heard them ever in my life, I will never forget the moment. And they just said so poetically and beautifully, simply this: I drink cheap beer. So what? Fuck you. And as I dabbed my eyes with the sleeve of my sweatshirt and sort of dried my teary eyes, I turned to Jamie and I said, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life. And at that moment, I was so fucking deeply in love with this band. And I only had heard one song. the record keeps playing, and it gets to the second song, which is this tune called Stoked and Broke. Now, I've never heard any of this shit before, and it's real fucking loud. And this song starts, and within 8 fucking bars, I was freaking out. I think I punched the fucking ceiling. And I just remember saying, like, to Jamie, like, the first thing that came to mind, I was like, dude, this is the fucking new Appetite for Destruction. Like, born out of Los Angeles. It, like, and by the way, I consider Appetite for Destruction the greatest rock album of all time. And we can fight about that anytime if you guys want to. I'm not saying that every song on it is the greatest rock song ever. But if you go song for song, track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down to 10 on any other record, that includes Back in Black. And yes, I know that Back in Black starts with Hell's Bells, and Hell's Bells is probably gonna beat Welcome to the Jungle. But as you start getting further and further into the record, like, the thing is that side 1, nothing in the fucking world can fuck with side 1 track for track. When you go, what is it? It's So Easy is second, fucking Out to Get Me, Night Train, Mr. Brownstone. Like, it is such a and it is reckless. It is dangerous. It's reckless. It's fucking unabashed. It is fueled by drugs and alcohol. It is fucking awesome. And my first thought when I heard that first Fiddler record was, this is the next Appetite for Destruction. And we drove along that night, probably listened to like 3/4 of that whole entire record. Like, we just drove along 101, listening to this whole fucking thing so fucking loud. And then we dropped down into Hollywood, went to the music box to see whatever the fuck we were going to see. I don't even remember who we saw that night. And then that was it. And then I've continued listening to this band. I've continued to love them more and more, actually, all the time. And the reason for that is this. When I talked before about Appetite for Destruction, and the first time that I and we all and the fucking world heard Appetite for Destruction, it embodied something. And the same thing is embodied by Fiddler. And those things are so desperately fucking absent from music right now. And I'm talking specifically of rock music, okay? Recently, there was the whole debate because fucking Adam Levine, of all fucking people, said that shit about how, like, hip-hop is the new rock and roll, and that upset a lot of people. There's some backlash to that. And you know what? The fact is, he's right. And furthermore, that motherfucker is a big part of why, and I'll get to that in a second, but hip-hop kind of is the new rock and roll, and the reason for that is because that's where all the fucking drugs and alcohol are now. All these words that I'm about to list, they now all apply to hip-hop music, okay? That's where all the fucking danger is right now in music, as it is in fucking urban music and hip-hop music. And that's why the fucking kids are gravitating to it. That's why it's what it is. Because rock and roll has become so fucking clean and so fucking safe and so fucking politically correct and so fucking predictable. All of these things I fucking hate in music. And, you know, rock music, fucking folk music, like everywhere you look, it's the same shit. It's safe. It's predictable. It's politically correct. Okay? So when we talk about Appetite for Destruction, when we talk about Fiddler, we talk about hip hop. It's fucking reckless. It's dangerous. It's unsafe. And I fucking love it, and I miss it. And it's been so fucking absent from fucking rock music for a long time. And here comes Fiddler, and not only do they embody all of that, but they're fucking unapologetic about it. And like in terms of this new record, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and I'll talk more specifically about the lyrics and shit like that, but there's this one fucking song on this new record called Too Real. And God, that song is fucking insane. It's like when they released it as a single, like I was hoping that like that's what I wanted the whole entire record to be. It's not what I got, but that's fine. But there's some fucking great lyrics in Too Real, and there's some shit that like a lot of fucking rock bands and punk like bands won't say some of the shit. anymore that they say in that. And God, it was fucking so refreshing to finally hear in that context, especially of like a punk band in this really abrasive, fucking loud, fucking rambunctious song, to fucking hear some of this shit finally being said. Agree with it or not agree with it, it's just fucking refreshing to hear. Now, here's the big point. Here's why it's important that we have Fiddler. Here's why Fiddler has a chance to sort of save us a little bit here. Because what happens without Fiddler, when you take away the fucking drugs and the alcohol and the spontaneity and the recklessness and the danger and the unpredictability, when you take that out of fucking rock music, you get, and this is you guys' fucking fault. I didn't do this. This is on you fucking guys. Okay? And you know what you get? You get Greta Van fucking Fleet. That's what you get. The biggest fucking rock band in America right now. Greta Van Fleet is what we fucking end up with. And I am not having it. I don't want it. Fuck those fucking guys. Now look, I'm going to say something really important right now. I got to say this first. They might be wonderful kids. Okay? I don't want to attack them entirely. You know, I don't want to attack their character. I don't want to attack them as individuals. They're probably wonderful kids. Those three brothers, they probably have fantastic, wholesome Thanksgiving dinners back home in Frankenmuth. I like Frankenmuth, Michigan. I've been to Frankenmuth a half a dozen times. You wouldn't believe it, but I have. I had a good friend who lived in Frankenmuth. I used to try to make little detours whenever I was touring and traveling through like Detroit and shit like that. I'd try to get up to Frankenmuth. It's a nice little town. It's just full of sugar cane. They're famous for beer and chicken. I like Frankenmuth. I'd probably like the guys in Greta Van Fleet, maybe, if I met them. I don't know. But I learned an important lesson years ago. Okay, Rustic, quickly, I'll try to throw this in here. Rustic, we had to go and we got tied in with these dates for like 2.5 weeks. We were going to be out for like 10 or 11 dates or something like that with that band Better Than Ezra. Now, I didn't like Better Than Ezra. In fact, I really didn't like them. They had, at the time, that song was really popular. It was, "It's good living with you." Wow. I was like, oh, I really, really dislike that song. I don't want to go out and do dates with these guys. Fuck. But we did. And you know what happened? First day, they finished sound check, we finished sound check, we're all, hanging out in our green room, whatever, and like the bass player came kind of sauntering in, like, "Say, what's you guys' deal?" And we start talking, and I started getting that little tick in my neck, like, uh-oh, I could sense it coming, and I started thinking to myself, like, hey, this guy seems like a really good dude. I like this guy. I had a couple beers with him, funny guy, good guy, and then I met the singer, and man, what a fucking good dude he is. And we spent like 2 weeks playing with these guys. The first week or so, like, I didn't watch any of the shows. We finished our set or whatever, or I did my thing, and then we hung out afterwards and all that. But we hung out enough where, like, I really got to like those guys. And you know what happened when I got to like them as people? Before I knew it, I liked their fucking music. Before I knew it, by the end of that run, I'm side stage for their encore. I got my fucking beer up in the air. I'm singing along. "It was good living with you. Oh, woo. This is the fucking best." And anyway, so I learned a valuable lesson by that. Like, if you're not careful, you'll learn that bands and people that you fucking hate their music, and accidentally you meet them and accidentally you fucking like them. Something weird happens where you start liking their music all of a sudden. It's this fucking really strange thing. The kids in Greta Van Fleet might be really good guys. And for that reason, I hope I never, ever, 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 ever fucking meet them, because I don't want to run the risk of ever liking that fucking shit that they play. And goddamn, I am tired of the fucking next Led Zeppelin, the next Led Zeppelin. They sound so much like Led Zeppelin. They sound exactly like Led Zeppelin. They are not the next fucking... You know what they are the next of? Okay, here's a deep one for some of you guys. Greta Van Fleet are not the next Led Zeppelin. Greta Van Fleet are more like the next fucking Kingdom Come. That's what Greta Van Fleet was. Some of you might pick that up. Some of you might not. I don't care. Go Google Kingdom Come, okay? That's what Greta Van Fleet is. They got like one more record in them before they are entirely exposed, which Saturday Night Live, I was kind of happy they went on Saturday Night Live, because I'm like, okay, grand scale now. They're under the fucking microscope now. They're gonna get exposed, because that's what happens when you fucking fake it. That's what happens when everything that you do is fucking derivative. Not like you're being influenced by something. No, it's just fucking, it's completely derivative. All right? It's like, it's fucking plagiarism. And what happens when you do that is eventually people fucking figure you out. And you're also talking about Led Zeppelin, okay? Which you cannot imitate them as hard as those fucking kids are trying. You can't imitate them. You know why? Drugs and alcohol. Now, I don't know. They might have some beers. They might even smoke a little weed before they play. I don't know. It doesn't sound like it to me. It sounds very sober to me. It sounds very fucking straight-laced and sober. And that's the fucking problem with it. Like these lyrics, you know, they're trying to write these fucking lyrics to go along like all this fucking, you know, like fucking these fucking like medieval lyrics, right? Like Led Zeppelin or some shit. Okay? Let me tell you something about medieval lyrics. Okay? Twice in my life. And I'm really into medieval lyrics, okay? I'm a huge Dio fan. I fucking love Dio. Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, all that shit. I love when fucking heavy bands get medieval. Oh, it's the best. Okay, so twice in my life, I have written medieval lyrics. One of them was for this joke band that we started that was a parody band of a fucking metal band, and it was all original, and I had to write this song. We needed something that had like that gallop to it, like right? That groove. So wrote one of those. It was called The Goblin Catcher. And I had to write some medieval lyrics for that. And another one was with that band, the Rancourts, which I've talked about before. I'll talk a lot about White Ranger down the road, believe me. But that band, the Rancourts, I played them a few episodes on the Girls Rock, episode 3, I think. We were doing that record, and I was like, man, we really need some medieval shit. So I went up in this room, and I fucking, you know, lit a candle and fucking closed the door and locked myself in and started writing medieval lyrics. Here's the thing about medieval lyrics. Twice in my life, I've written medieval lyrics. Twice. Both times that I sat down to write medieval lyrics, I was wicked fucked up. Because that's what you have to do. I smoked a bunch of weed and I got wicked fucked up. And I don't get that impression from this band. I'm just not picking it up from them. I'm just not. It's awful. There's nothing good about it. The whole thing is just a big, bad, poorly executed fucking ripoff. And then I have to turn on YouTube and watch like the Austin City Limits Festival and watch these big fucking like Bonnaroo and shit. And there's all you guys standing there in droves by the fucking tens of thousands fucking screaming for him like a bunch of fucking idiots. God, I mean, it is really bad. You can't tell me that if you walked into a fucking bar and you heard the shit that those guys were doing, some band that you've never heard before, there's 50 people watching them, you don't have this power of persuasion, this fucking sheep mentality of like, well, everybody else likes them, there's 30,000 people here, like, I'll scream too. Okay, there's 25 people in the room, and these guys are on that stage doing the exact same shit that they did on Saturday Night Live. There's no fucking way you're staying in there. You're not even paying the cover. You're like, can I check them out for a minute and see if I want to pay? And then you go and you watch 10, 15, 30 seconds. You go, nope. And you leave, say, thanks, all set. I'm going to go to the next place. That's what happens. I guarantee it. God, and you know, I don't want to get too into this fucking lead singer and how he looks and sounds. I will say this though. The dude looks like, remember that movie, The Warriors? It was about a street gang from like in the 70s. He looks like if you took a member of The Warriors and put it in a blender with the lead singer of Air Supply, then you get that dude. He looks like if Richard Simmons dressed up like a fucking Indian for Halloween. And he wears Birkenstocks. Who fucking wears Birkenstocks anymore? How fucking out of tune is this dude? He's wearing Birkenstocks on a stage in front of fucking 50,000 people. He's wearing Birkenstocks. I haven't seen somebody, the last time I saw somebody wearing Birkenstocks on a stage in front of people was the fucking kid who was playing Peppermint Patty in my nephew's high school presentation of a Charlie Brown Christmas. The dude's wearing Birkenstocks. My favorite thing that I read about them, I was watching their Saturday Night Live performance on YouTube. And you know, that's the other thing is like, they got to do SNL. Like they had 2 fucking cracks at it. Like that was their best 2 feet forward. That was the best they had. It was awful. So anyway, I was reading through the comments. I remember this because I wrote it down. And some dude said, it sounds like a seagull being beaten by a cat. And that was the best. That sums up that band better than anything. It sounds like a fucking seagull being beaten by a cat. For a second there, I was grateful that we had Greta Van Fleet. Just for a minute there, just for that little, gave me a good laugh for a second. But anyway, that's all I'm saying. That's what you get. Without Fiddlar, we get Greta Van Fleet. And I need Fiddlar. I don't need or want Greta Van Fleet. They can save that shit. Like I said, I'm giving them 1 or 2 more records, and then the fucking jig is up. They're just not good enough. They're not good enough to be artists one day and just flip the page and be like, oh, we're gonna break away. We're actually gonna sound original and like ourselves. We're gonna write some good lyrics and some good chord structures and all that. They're just not good enough to do that. I don't think. I might have to fucking eat crow on that. I don't know. If that happens, if they someday end up making a really fucking creatively viable record, I will eat my own fucking dick. And I'll tell you about it on this show. I'll do it on this show. Okay, so how'd we get here? Okay, so that's why Fiddlar is important. Now, where is Fiddlar going? What's up with Fiddlar? What's the current status of Fiddlar? Well, for that, oh, and I have to say this too. Like, I finally got to see those guys. I finally got to see Fiddlar. It was part of my whole little walkabout, my whole journey that I was on. So I never really talked about it. But I ended up during that trip. I ended up in Nashville. That was one of the places that I ended up in. And I had missed Fiddlar like 3 weeks before they were actually up here. They were playing at the Paradise in Boston. It's one of my favorite places to see. And I really wanted to catch Fiddlar there because I wanted to see them in Boston, because I know that Boston is literally the best fucking city in the world for playing music and watching music. It's the best fucking music crowd on the planet. So I figured Boston's going to go fucking psycho with these guys, and I'm sure they did, but I missed it. So I was going to be in Nashville when they were there. So I reached out to that guy, Jamie, quote, Jamie is his name. And, you know, can you get me hooked up? You think? I didn't have time to buy tickets. I didn't get, so there they were. So I got tickets. I went to see Fiddlar, and it was so not disappointing. And those guys are one of the fucking greatest live bands on the planet right now too. And those guys, you know, like every other band, going back to like the Safety and the fucking Politically Correct and every other rock band that you'll go and see, you'll see their crew, you know, like their stagehands. You'll see those guys come out right before the show, and they'll put like 3 bottles of like Poland Spring water down by their microphone stand and next to their set list. Fiddlar's guys, literally, they all brought out like 5 beers and just laid them down each by like each guy's fucking set list and mic stand. They all had a fucking basically a 6-pack in front of them of fucking PBR pounders. And those guys, I swear, those guys must have drank like 30 beers between them on stage just during the fucking hour and a half that they played that show. It was fucking awesome. And it was fucking reckless, and I needed like a little catharsis, so I like got right down in the middle of the fucking whole thing. I was like second, third row, pushing around, shoving around. It was good fun. I loved it. It was the most undisappointing live show that I've seen in a very long time. They fucking ruled. But anyway, I'd like to hang out with those guys someday. I'd like to be friends with them. I think I'd have a very good time with Fiddlar. But anyway, so how did I get here? So, all right. So yeah, that all leads to this new, I saw them in Nashville. They were fucking awesome. If you get a chance to see Fiddlar, go. They fucking rule. So now they put out this new record like 3 weeks ago. And I'm going to sort of break something down in a roundabout kind of way now. Keeping in mind, first album, super fucking raw, super fucking punk rock, nothing but songs about fucking partying and getting wicked fucked up and surfing and fucking skateboarding and getting hurt and everything else. Shit that I love. And then second record, more of the same, but like I said, you could tell that they were moving somewhere. There was a lot more polish on things. And then that leads us here to this newest record called Almost Free. Okay, and so here's like the big circle that I kind of wanted to draw around as it pertains to Fiddlar. It's going to kind of venture off for a second, but it's all speaking about the same shit, okay? So Me, like most everybody, way into the Beastie Boys, right? And like most everybody, I regard Check Your Head as like one of the most unfuckwithable albums that's ever been made ever. Easily, easily on any top 10 list of like the greatest, most important, sort of pioneeristic fucking records that ever got made. Like that changed a whole ton of shit. And a lot of people have tried, the Beasties were one of those like two or three bands that like people have tried to do what they did and nobody has come close, okay? That was a big saying about Led Zeppelin. I know we just talked about Greta Van Fleet, like Led Zeppelin. There was this saying, it was, shit, I may be paraphrasing this a little bit, but it was something like, I don't know, it was something like often imitated, never replicated, or something like that, meaning like everybody fucking tried, but nobody ever got it. And so the Beasties were kind of like that. And the one thing I never got from the Beastie Boys that I always wanted and will always wish that they did, like it's not a huge deal. I got so much fucking great shit that like it's nothing to really complain about. But like one thing that I always wished they did, they obviously made a whole record full of instrumentals, which they did really, really fucking cool instrumentals, and they made that one, the In Sound from Way Out or whatever it was called, and that was fucking cool. But I always wanted just a full record of like all their just punk rock shit, like 10, 15 songs like Heart Attack Man and Gratitude and stuff like that. I always wanted them to make that record. They never did, obviously. And that's where Fiddler kind of came in, especially with that first record. Like I started getting this sense with Fiddler, like these guys are gonna they're filling my void of like that record full of like just punk songs from the Beastie Boys. Like there's a lot of very similar sort of like sensibilities and all of that in the shit that Fiddler does, and that's one of the things I love about Fiddler. But here's where Fiddler kind of broke off from that a little bit, and sort of how I perceive things, to be like with this new record, okay, like I think, and I might be totally wrong, but as a listener, as a fan, like I think that they're trying to sort of head in exactly that direction. Like I kind of see them trying to sort of create their own Check Your Head. And to be honest with you, I think they're gonna get there. This new record kind of fucks with me a little bit because like it is different, and their second record was sort of a growth toward this new record. They definitely they polished up a little bit on the second record, and you kind of saw that they might be sort of like heading in this direction where like they want to sort of, craft songs and like make something really artistically viable and all of that. Okay. And then that leads us to this new record. And the first song, this song called Get Off My Rock, that is so derivative of the Beastie Boys. Like it's too derivative to not think that it's like paying some sort of homage. If it's not, it has to be. It's just so, it sounds so fucking much like What You Want that it has to be sort of a head nod to that. Okay. The problem is, if you're gonna build your whole, like if you're gonna build all your records around singing about fucking partying and getting fucked up and being drunk and fucking, booze and drugs and all this shit, that's great. I'm into it. Like I've said, I don't think I need to make that point anymore. I fucking love that shit. Okay? And if that's where you're gonna live, then that's fine. You can stay there. It doesn't have to be very brainy. Okay? But if you're gonna try to start pulling back from that and starting to write music about more like sort of like social political themes and like writing music that's about more meaningful things, then you need to do a little better than what they're doing, Like everything about Get Off My Rock comes off as like straight up Check Your Head era Beastie Boys, except for the flow of it and the lyrics. Like that's the place right now that's not really being connected, I see where they're going, and that's why I'm like giving a pass on this record. And again, it's only been out for a few weeks, so it might really grow on me. It's just right now I'm having a hard time with it. But the thing is that I see where they're headed. And I do think that they're going to get there. I think that this record that we have right now is sort of like a growing pain in that process. I think it's like, this is a bridge. And I'm cool just to fucking stay in the car and ride along with these dudes for right now because, like I said, I think this is going somewhere fucking awesome. Right now, the road's a little bumpy. There's a lot of fucking traffic and shit like that. And it's, the fucking AC is broken and it's fucking hot out and it's not real comfortable right now. But it's all going to be all right. It's going to be cool. And part of where I think that is, here's what I think is the impasse right now. And in my opinion, and I might be totally fucking wrong about this. And who the fuck am I? I don't say this in a way like, here's what you guys got to do. Like I'm some fucking scholar, but just, for the sake of my show and conversation and whatever, here's what I think. And I think the impasse that's taking place here is this. A lot of people listen to the Beastie Boys. Like I said, they try to sort of imitate what's happening there. They try to sort of collect from what they did and create something similar and be inspired by that and everything. But in the process of doing that, kind of stop at the Beastie Boys in terms of what they can learn from the Beastie Boys. And here's the interesting part of all this. Okay, so I'm probably just like a little bit younger than those guys, the Beasties. Like I think, I don't know, maybe 10 years or something like that. But anyway, we kind of came up at the same time. We were involved. We kind of came, we were in the same musical climate and musical culture at the same time. And the climate and the culture during that period was one that was fucking studious. It was one where you had to know the fucking history of the shit that you were into. And it was a really great time. And, it was part of like hip hop culture and it was part of jazz culture and all of that. Now, the difference is like these things are still taking place in hip hop culture and in jazz culture. The difference is during this time period in like the 90s or whatever, like this was the mainstream. And so everybody, you had to be kind of sharp and know what the fuck you were talking about. Right? It was a dialogue, and I've talked a lot about the importance of listening to music, how listening and what you listen to is every bit as important as what you practice and how much you practice and what you play. It's directly relative to it. It's like food. Okay, if you need it in a more kind of like tangible scenario, there's the saying that the shit you put in your body directly affects how your body feels and how your body performs, and music's the exact same way. If you're not listening to shit that is challenging you, musically to understand what they're doing and how they did it and production and things like that, if you're not listening to shit that is challenging your ability, it's outside of what you're capable of doing and you have to listen to it and shed and learn how they did it, then you're fucking up. And you're probably not going to get any better. You'll probably be good. You'll be all right, whatever. But you're going to tap about half of your potential if you're not listening to shit that challenges you. Listening to shit that you don't quite understand and trying to understand it. It's like books. It's like history books. And whenever you listened to music back then, I still do this. If you hear somebody for the first time that you like and you want to know why you like them, you have to read up. You have to fucking do your work and learn who they were into and what they were pulling from. And it doesn't matter what the genre is, If you got into D'Angelo, you'd be remiss if you didn't go back and listen to fucking Hear My Dear by Marvin Gaye. And you have to study all these things. You have to study Curtis Mayfield. You have to study Marvin Gaye to understand how D'Angelo's building all this shit, the vocal textures and the harmonies that Marvin did and that Curtis Mayfield did and all, like a lot of different guys like that. You have to go and dig in. And then that way, when it comes time to want to play shit like D'Angelo or talk to somebody in a way that relates to shit like D'Angelo, you know what you're talking about. You're equipped. And the same thing is with musical dialogue. Okay, musical dialogue is very similar to just oral dialogue. When people sit on a stage and they're playing some shit together and they've never played together before, there's a conversation taking place. Even with people who play together all the time, it's a conversation. And when you're watching people have really fucking good conversation, you know that it's because they've each read the same books. They know the same fucking history. Whether it's punk music, you could go back to Black Flag, Bad Religion, if you like those kinds of bands. There's a whole history of the shit that got them to where they are at, and what carried them along, right? I've talked before about Whitney Houston, how much I loved Whitney Houston, and then I had to go back and figure out why Whitney Houston was Whitney Houston, and that started with going back to like James Cleveland and Mahalia Jackson and all this shit. Okay, you see what I'm coming from? So with the Beastie Boys, it's the same thing, and this is where I think Fiddlar's a little bit caught up. Maybe when the Beastie Boys did Root Down, for example, okay, you don't get the impression that they just heard that and they were like, oh, that's a cool beat, we'll rhyme over that. Awesome. No, you sort of much more with the Beastie Boys, you feel like that's the shit that they're listening to. They were listening to Jimmy Smith's Root Down album, which you should too, by the way. And they were listening to shit like that. Jimmy Smith and fucking Grant Green, Grover Washington Jr., all that kind of stuff is what they were listening to. The Beastie Boys weren't always just listening to rap music and being a rap group. They weren't always listening to punk music and playing, as like a punk band sometimes. They were what they were because they dug so deep and they listened to good shit. It's so fucking blatantly, obviously clear that the Beastie Boys' taste in music and what they listened to was fucking impeccable. And that made them as good as they were, And so when you want to sort of like, you revere these certain bands and these certain things, and you want to be able to have the same sort of discussions like they have. You want to know that same language. You have to read the fucking books. You have to go backwards. You have to study how it all got there. Like there used to be this club in Boston. There still is. There's this place in Boston called Wally's. And all through my 20s, Wally's fucking went off on Tuesday nights. It was a tiny little fucking jazz club. And on Tuesday nights, it was fucking jammed in there. It was just bottlenecked. It was elbow to elbow. Everybody wanted to be in Wally's on Tuesday night because on Tuesdays, the baddest motherfuckers in town went down there and played. All right. And so like Boston was sort of like my second home throughout my 20s. And most of the time that we were off the road and come back here to Portland, I'd be here and home for a couple days, and then I'd go to Boston for the week or whatever, So if we played down in Boston, for instance, right? I'm going somewhere with this. So, we'd play like Friday, Saturday prior, and we'd sell out the fucking Paradise for 2 nights, right? Could be the most fucking popular band in town that week. I just fucking for 2 nights in a row, I just played for fucking 2,000 people, got up there, did my thing, felt really confident, and all these people fucking screaming and cheering and buying fucking shirts and everything else. And then I'd stay in town and I'd wait a few days until Tuesday and I'd go over to Wally's. Okay. Now, after I've just come off this fucking weekend playing for all these people, all this shit, I go down to Wally's and there is no fucking way that I'm getting on that stage. I could get invited up there because I know people that are playing, and you just are like, nope, no thank you. I'm definitely not getting up there. And you have to be humble enough to know when to, there's conversations taking place on that stage from people who really, really know the language. They have, like I said, they have read the books. They have done the fucking work. They have studied. They know the language. And when you try to move to a different topic, they know what you're talking about. They follow you there. Okay. And I may know what they're all talking about, but I can't speak it as eloquently. And sometimes it's best to know when to shut the fuck up and just listen to the conversation, And Wally's was one of those things, man. It was like, there were times I felt really confident about my playing. I felt really confident about where I was at. I wasn't going to risk getting up on that stage and fucking up the discussion. And the crowd calls it out too, and so does the band. I saw so many times where like somebody didn't have that kind of humility. I saw so many times where like mid-song, some kid had to hand a guitar back to somebody, because the band's rolling their eyes and the crowd's kind of like shrugging them off and booing them a little bit. Like everybody gets pissed when you get up there and you start trying to talk like a fucking idiot with your instrument. No one likes that. So I guess that's the big thing with this. Like, that's my sort of look at this new Fiddlar record. It feels a little bit awkward to me. They are trying to grow into something, and I like what they're trying to grow into. And like I said, I know they're going to get there. But my feeling about it and my take on it is that this is a weird thing to say, because again, like, this might be me trying to sort of manifest what I want, and that's fucked up because this is them. And maybe they're gonna be like Muse, right? I fucking loved Muse. There was a period of time where few contemporary bands on the fucking planet made me want to break shit as hard as fucking Muse did for like their first 2 or 3 records. And then all of a sudden, like, slowly they started creeping into this sort of like really dancey shit. Like, I'd be like, oh, this sounds like fucking Queen. I can listen to Queen if I want to listen to Queen. I want to listen to Muse. And then more and more, now they just basically sound exactly like Queen, and everything's this fucking, like, it sounds like a dance mix half the time, and it just sounds like this just Euro shit. So I don't listen to Muse that much anymore. But you know what? Muse is still really fucking popular, and they're still selling a lot of records. So good for them. I'm happy for them. And that might be where Fiddler is headed. I might fall off from Fiddler in 2 or 3 records and just be like, I see where they're going and I'm not with them. But good for them. Happy for them. Have a good fucking career. Have a good life. It's yours. But what I'm saying is, if they're trying to go where I think they're trying to go, I think the impasse in the road right here, I think the obstacle in place is, it sounds to me like they're not listening to the kind of shit that's going to get them to where they're trying to go. And so, I don't know. Maybe this is just sort of like a cautionary tale, or this is sort of like some advice that somebody listening to this show might take, who's trying to like start a band or play music or get to a certain thing that they're doing. You have to fucking go back through the books. You have to fucking know the history. You have to know how your dude got there if you like somebody. And the only way to do that is to know what they liked and what they listened to. And that's just one of it's a fucking awesome thing about music. It's like something, it's a constant, like, this world of exploration and discovery and everything else. It never fucking ends. Been playing music for 30 years or something like that, and I will probably spend the next 40 still learning new things about it, hearing new things, hearing shit in 10 years for the first time that actually was recorded 30 years ago now today. I'll still be finding that shit, and hopefully new shit will still keep coming along that I love and everything else, and it's fucking cool. So that's my take on this new Fiddler record. That's my take on Fiddler. I love them. I love them. I love them. I do. I'm in love with Fiddler. And like I said, the road's bumpy right now, but I'm staying in the fucking car because I want to see where we're headed. All right, now I gotta go. Okay, so thanks a lot for listening and coming along with me on this. I hope you'll come back. Please remember something that I don't say enough, because I don't like just sitting here asking you guys for shit, but please remember to rate this show. Give me a nice rating if you feel like you could. Make a comment, tell somebody about it. Try to help me out a little bit. Other than that, go and just help anybody out. Go do something fucking cool for somebody, and you'll feel better about yourself. Then listen to some real aggressive music, break some shit. Have a primal moment by yourself, and then listen to some nice, beautiful shit. And then, you know what? Everybody find somebody that you really like. Spend a day, or spend your time, if you get some music listening time, pick somebody you really like, and then try to trace them. Try to figure out where they're coming from. Read some shit. I mean, like, literally read some shit. Find some bios or some interviews or whatever. See where they're coming from, what their whole deal is. I bet it'll turn you on to some new shit that you've never heard that you'll probably like a lot for the rest of your life. Okay? That's all. That's all. I want to thank Fiddler for continuing to make music, giving me some shit to talk about. And I want to thank Jamie for introducing me to Fiddler's music, and also just for everything Jamie's done. I love Jamie. Or at least the guy that I've called Jamie this whole show, like, as though that's actually his name. But anyway, to the guy who I've called Jamie this whole show, I love you, Jamie, and thanks for everything. Okay, so speaking of people that I love you too. Probably. I'm gonna say chances are I love you. I love most people. I love good people. I like this place here for the most part. Well, that's not entirely true. I bet I love most everybody who's listening to this show. Okay, I might not love you, but I do. I respect you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening. There, okay? I really appreciate you guys listening. That's true. And I'd probably like you a lot as a person if I met you, and I may grow to love you. There, that's it. Okay, so that said, I like you a lot. Hold on, let me get this right. Okay. I appreciate you listening to the show. I'd probably like you a lot if I met you as a person, and I may one day grow to love you. And that said, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Thanks for listening. I'll talk with you again next time, and see you later.